So hi, good afternoon. It's afternoon for me. Good morning or good afternoon, fourth grade. Today we are going to continue learning some math and some fractions. So we should be on lesson 7. So before you watch this Zoom where I'll do the must-do problems with you, you should have already watched the lesson 7 videos. So if you haven't done that, stop this video and go do that now, or you might be a little lost. So for today, we are going to need our student workbooks on page 30. I will show you what it will look like, and a pencil, of course, or a pen, and it should look just like this. So now I'm going to share my screen with you so we can work through these problems together. Okay, perfect. So we're on page 30 again, just to make sure you're all there. We'll even give you a couple seconds. So the directions at the top says each rectangle represents 1. So the shaded unit fractions have been decomposed into smaller units. Express the equivalent fractions in a number sentence using multiplication. The first one has been done for you. So in A, as we can see, we have our tape diagram with 2 blocks, and 1 block is shaded in. So if 1 block shaded in, we can see here, that means 1/2. So after they shaded in 1 block, they then cut it in half again with this dotted line, making 1, 2, 3, and 4 more blocks. So since they cut it in half again, now we have 2 rows, so we're multiplying 1/2 times 2. So 1 times 2 equals 2, and 2 times 2 equals 4. So the shaded part now says that it is 2/4 of our whole diagram, which you can see in the picture. So now we're going to B. I was going to say number B. We're going to go to letter B. So in B again, looking at our tape, we have 1 and 1, which makes 1 whole. And again, they put the line down the middle, so we have 1/2 and 1/2. So we can write that down, 1/2. So then they cut it in half into 2 more pieces, or 2 more lines. They cut in half into 3 more pieces. So we have this line going through here and a line going through here. So now we're going to try to find out what is our fraction for the shaded region. So since we cut it in half for 3 more pieces, we cut it once and twice. We're going to put an equal sign and write 1/2 again, and give yourself some room on our big number line. Okay. So now, how many boxes do we have? So you should have said 3. So we're going to multiply it by 3, multiply it by 3. And what is 1 times 3? You should be writing it down, which is 3/6, because 2 times 3 equals 6. So I'm going to go over it again. We have our half that we then cut into thirds. So since we're cutting it in thirds, we're going to multiply 1/2 times 3. And 1/2 times 3 equals 3/6. So 3/6 and 1/2 are equivalent fractions, because as you can see in a regular tape diagram, if we shade this in, this is 1/2, and this is also 1/2. But instead of having 2 boxes, we have 6. So I'll give everyone a second to write the rest of that down, and then we're going to go to 1D. So now we're moving on down to 1D. So again, we have our tape diagram, which is showing 2 boxes, and 1 is completely shaded in. So we're again starting with 1/2 equals, and this time we're cutting it into 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're cutting it 4 times to make the boxes even smaller. So we can then write 1/2 times, and how many boxes we now have. So since we cut it with 4 lines, we can now count our boxes as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because as you can see in C, you only have 4, but now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom times 5 because we have 5 rows. So now 1 times 5 equals 5 over 5 times 2 equals 10. So 1/2 equals 5/10. And again, just to check our math, we can look at our tape diagram and we can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shaded, and that's where the 5 comes from. And then the 10, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 boxes for the bottom part for 5/10. So once we have that done, we are going to turn to page 31. So right on the next page. So now we're decomposing the shaded fractions into smaller units using the area models. Express the equivalent fractions in a number sentence using multiplication. So first, I'm going to circle the 2 problems we're doing. We're going to do A and B. So in A, how many boxes do we have? So I'll give you a second to think about it. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you should have said 4 boxes. So what is our unit fraction if there are 4 boxes? So of course, I'm going to write it just in the box, 1/4. Since there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'll write that in all of them. 1/4. So now we're going to cut the box in half horizontally. So horizontally means this way. We're going straight across. So as you can see, we're going to go straight through our 1/4. So now, instead of having 4 boxes, we cut it in half. So we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now we have 2 rows. So we're going to take our 1/4 and multiply it times 2, since we have up the top and the bottom. So 1 times 2 equals 2, and 4 times 2 equals 8. So before multiplying that, if we wanted to find the answer of 2/8, we could have just counted. So looking at our shaded part, we have 1 and 2, and then totally we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's where our 8 comes from, just counting in our tape diagram, counting all 8 boxes. And our 2 is the 2 shaded in the beginning. So now we're going to do that again. So I want everyone to think, what are we going to do first? So the first thing we should do is count the number of boxes. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that means this shaded region is 1/5 of the tape diagram. And that also means this is a 5th, this is a 5th, this and this. So 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, and 5/5. So after we do that, we can write the 1/5 again. Now we're going to cut our box in half just like we did in A. So I'm going to use a dotted line and cut the box in half. So now we're going to multiply by the 2 new rows. So 1 times 2, 5 times 2 equals 1 times 2 is 2, 5 times 2 is 10. And that helps us check our answer because 1/5 equals 2/5. Those are equivalent fractions. So we have 1, 2 in our shaded region, so that's where the 2 comes from. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 total boxes, and that's where the 10 comes from. Just going to make my equal sign a little bit better. Okay. Perfect. So now we're going to go down to E and F. So in E, it says, what happened to the size? I'm going to underline the word size twice. What happened to the size of the fractional units when you decompose the fraction? So above fractional units, I'm going to put a 1 over D, because a fractional unit is a 1 over a denominator. Then for the word decomposed, I'm going to put a box around it because that word seems pretty important in this sentence. And if we remember, decomposing a number means you're breaking it apart and making it smaller. And of course, we're looking at a fraction. So next to the word fraction, I'm going to write n over d for numerator over denominator. So you should all be thinking, what happened to the size of the fractional units when you decompose the fraction? So we're going to go back up before we answer it. We started with 1/5, which was just the whole section here of this R. So once we decompose the fraction went from 1/5 to 2/10. So we made it smaller. So for E, we're going to write the size of the fractional units decreased, or they got smaller. Then for F, it says, what happened to the total number of units? So I'm going to underline total number of units, and I'm going to really underline the word total because that's very important. So what happened to the total number of units in the whole when you decomposed? Again, I'm going to put a box around decomposed, and write that means smaller, the fraction, and over D. So again, we're going to go back up to the top, and instead of looking at B, we're going to look at A. So we started with 4 boxes, and when we decomposed the fraction, we put this line through it. So when we added this line, did we add more boxes, or did we make our boxes bigger or smaller, I should say? So did we increase the area of our boxes, or did we make them smaller? So if you said smaller, you're correct, because we took this big box here and we turned it into 2 boxes, which made it smaller. So since we made the boxes smaller, we increased the number of them. So instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4, we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So when we made them smaller, the number of total units increased. So again, just like in this problem, we got more boxes instead of less boxes. Perfect. So now we can turn to page 32. And of course, if I'm going too fast for you, feel free to stop the video so you can make sure to write everything down. So now on number 3, it says draw 3 different area models to represent 1/3 by shading. Decompose the shaded fraction into 6, 9ths, and 12ths, and use multiplication to show how each fraction is equivalent to 1/3. So we're just going to do A and B. So what's the first thing we should do? it says we should draw 3 different area models to represent 1/3 by shading. So the first thing we should do is draw our model that represents 1/3. So I want everyone to think, close your eyes and think, how many boxes will we have when we draw a model to represent 1/3? So if your model looks like this, you are correct. We should have 1, 2, 3 boxes. So now I'm going to write that this is 1/3. And I'm going to shade it in. So now we are supposed to decompose the shaded fraction into 6. So we have 3, and we need to turn this 3 into 6. So what do you think we're going to do? How do you think we're going to turn 3 into 6? If you said we're going to put another line down the middle, then you are correct. So we're going to put 3 lines down the middle of all 3 boxes. So now if we count them, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes. So this whole shaded portion right here is now equal, I'm just going to draw an arrow, to 2, 6. Because one of this is now 1, 6, 1, 6, 1, 6, 1, 6, 1, 6, and 1, 6. So now if we added 1, 6 plus 1, 6, we have this whole part being 2, 6. So that's 1/3 that we started with at the bottom with 1, 2, 3 boxes. And we have 2/6 because now in this shaded portion, we have 1, 6 and 1, 6, which equals 2, 6. So now how do I get from 1/3 to 2, 6? How do you think we get there? If you said multiplying, you're correct, because it also says here, use multiplication. So if we underlined our directions, we will remember what to do. So now how do I go from 3 to 6? We multiply times 2, and that will give us 6. So if I multiply times 2 on the bottom, I then have to multiply times 2 on the top. So times 2, equal sign, so 1/3 equals 2, 6. And if we look at our diagram again, we can see that 1/3 right here is equal to 2, 6, 1, 6 and 1, 6. So 1, 6, 2, 6 is how you would count or how you would add these two together. So that is correct. So we're going to put a check mark. So now we only have one more problem to go with letter B. Move this a little bit. Perfect. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to draw an area model to represent 1/3 by shading. So it's the same model we started with in A. So we're going to draw our model, and we're going to draw 2 lines that represent 1/3. So 1/3, 2/3, and 3/3. So down here, I'm going to draw 1/3. So now we shade in our third. So now for this one, we are breaking it down into ninths. So how do we get from 3 blocks to 9 blocks? How would we do that? So if you said by drawing lines, 2 lines in each box, you are correct. So we're going to decompose each box by adding 2 lines. And I made these lines a little bit bigger so you can see which lines are new and which lines are old. So now let's count our boxes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, which is perfect because we're breaking it into ninths. So I'm going to write 1/9, 1/9, 1/9, 1/9, 1/9, 1/9, 1/9, 1/9, and 1/9. That is a tongue twister saying it that many times. So now as we can see, 1/3 is this first box. So now how many nines are in that first box? If you said 3 nines, you are correct. So we're going to draw and we're going to write, 3/9. So this entire box equals 3 nines or 1/3. So let's see how we solve to get there. So 1/3 and 3/9. So whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So can we multiply anything by 3 to get 9? If you said 3, you're correct. So times 3. And of course, if we multiply the bottom times 3, we have to multiply the top times 3. So 1 times 3 equals 3, and 3 times 3 equals 9, which means this is correct, that 1/3 and 3/9 are equivalent fractions. And if you need to look at the picture to check too, if multiplication doesn't make sense and you need to look at the picture, you can see 1/9 plus 1/9 plus 1/9 equals that same box of 1/3. And that is all the problems, all the must-do problems that you had to do today. So I hope this was helpful and informative, and it helped you understand more about equivalent fractions. So you are now complete. So you can put away your math books and you can do other homework or go outside, whatever you would like. So thank you for joining me. Have a great rest of your day.